Naomi. I'm 42, a solo mum of 2 children, 8 and almost 5. Matt and I met in 2013. We had a whirlwind romance. 6 months after we met, we were engaged in Paris. We bought a house together, got married within that year, and then a year later, our first daughter, Vivian, was born. And then 3 years later, my daughter, Sylvie, was born. And then only 8 months after that, he was diagnosed. We weren't together for very long, but it was a very dense 7 years together. He was my security. He was my best friend. We did everything together. We just got each other, and we were co-parents. We had similar values. He was my other person that was always around. He was diagnosed pretty soon after I had my second daughter, so she was 8 months old. I was still on maternity leave, and he was diagnosed in March 2020, so just as COVID was starting to happen. So it was a very strange period. It was, the world was shutting down and our world was just sort of, I don't know, it's just a very, it just felt like it was some kind of end of the world. Just the COVID lockdown basically happening the same day as Matt's chemo starting is what happened to us. So yeah, it was a pretty intense period. I think you just go into survival mode. So you just you have to get up, you have to, Matt was at hospital. So yeah, I had to get up, drop my older daughter off to childcare. I'd just strap my baby in and then go and visit him every day. And that's all I could do. And it's all a bit of a blur to me. But yeah, at the same time, every day the visitation restrictions were changing at the hospital. So one day be like, you can bring 2 visitors. One day you could bring 1 visitor, and then the next day it's like, oh, you can't bring the baby in anymore. So it was just a crazy time. Around early February 2020, he started saying that he had insomnia and he couldn't feel his left leg. Well, to be honest, I was like, well, I have a baby to deal with. Don't you complain to me about insomnia, was my reaction to begin with. Yeah, and then sort of around mid-February, he would, one day in the middle of the night, he'll tap me on the shoulder and sort of brought my hands to his sort of pelvis and said, can you feel that lump? And I said, yes, I can. And then the next day I said, call a GP and make an appointment. And so he did, and then he went to get an ultrasound, and then he came home and he said to me that the sonographer didn't say anything. She just kept checking the whole body. And I was like, that doesn't sound good. We actually went on a holiday that weekend that was planned. And then he started saying that he was in a lot of pain. So we drove on the way back. I dropped him off at emergency. And at emergency, they said, there's definitely something there, but we think it might be a sarcoma. We knew it was something cancerous, but he got dropped off at emergency that night. And until that point, most people were telling us it was probably a lymphoma. He had a scan done that night at emergency. Emergency registrar came in and said, it just doesn't look like a lymphoma. I'm pretty sure, I think it's a sarcoma. And until that point, we hadn't really heard of sarcoma before. Matt was really taken by this doctor. I think he really gave Matt a good talking to that night about how he's the only one who can look after himself and that he really needs to stand up for himself and get this diagnosed ASAP. So the next morning he made an appointment with a sarcoma surgeon in Sydney and got the ball rolling straight away. So For a sarcoma, it was diagnosed pretty quickly. It was diagnosed within 3 weeks, which is that's record time. My older daughter was 4, my younger daughter was 9 months old. So it just said, "Daddy's sick." That's all I could, I mean, I wasn't equipped to really deal with it. I mean, I wasn't equipped to deal with it myself. Did Matt and I know anything about sarcoma prior to diagnosis? Yeah. So as I said, my gut instinct was, oh, this is bad. I think I have in the past heard of young people dying from it. I think I've just had some sort of some stories I've read in the back of my mind that just sort of popped up. So I kind of, But in general, no, I did not. No, sarcoma. Well, did I struggle? It was definitely hard seeing him go through chemo and suffer so much. I guess towards the end, what was, to begin with, his treatment was working. So I sort of thought, well, he's suffering now, but it's worth it. But what was really hard was when we knew it wasn't working, we knew it was still spreading, we knew, the chemo has stopped working and it's not doing much, and he was still really struggling with the side effects, and knowing that it's probably not doing anything was probably one of the hardest to see, that his struggles and knowing that it's not reaping any benefits. Probably the hardest is that my girls don't have a father. For me, it's that he's not here to delight in them and enjoy them. And it's something that only parents understand when your children are growing up and, they're just being lovely, lovely kids, and that Matt's not here to share it with. So that's probably the hardest bit. I mean, obviously it'd be nice if I had help when the kids were misbehaving, but probably the hardest is when they're just being gorgeous and he's not here to enjoy it. It's scary being responsible for 2 children on my own. That I feel that sort of, I mean, I love them, but I do feel that psychological burden on me that I can never afford to be sick, or I can never afford to be, I can't afford to not be the best mum because I'm all they've got. Obviously, as I've said, kids not having a dad, that's going to be something that they're going to have to live with all their lives, and we'll miss him at every step. Well, we take it one at a time, one as it comes, really. And I've learnt over time that the anticipation can sometimes be worse than the day itself. But we do make sure we mark it. We get together for birthdays. We get together for his anniversary. We ignore Father's Day. We choose not to participate in that. And we just do what we can. I live by what Sheryl Sandberg said, which is that you've got to make the most of option B. So her thing was that, it's not, option A is not an option anymore. That's what you thought your life would be like, but you've got to make the most of option B. And that's what I try to do.
What would you like to see change about sarcoma around diagnosis?
Better awareness, better research, more awareness that it's rare and that there is no cookie cutter approach. Well, obviously we need a cure, but just better treatment pathways, something that doesn't affect them as well. I mean, it's even if you survive, the treatment pathways are so brutal that, there's just so many after effects of all this really, really toxic chemo that they have to go through. Or radiation. As a solo parent of 2 young kids, it's just routine. Get up in the morning, get them dressed, pack their lunch, give their breakfast, and then, I go to work or work here or whatever, and then pick them up, dinner, bath, bed. That's just as simple as it gets, really. And I think that's how I cope. That's my coping mechanism, and I think it's probably the coping mechanism of that's how my kids cope as well. So we know what to expect, and in an uncertain sort of, my kids have experienced a lot of uncertainty in their lives, and I think that's just keeps us safe, feel safe and secure. What does my bad days look like? Well, to anybody else looking in, it'll look exactly the same as a good day, because I don't have a choice. The most difficult thing about Matt's absence is that, I've got great friends and great family who support me, but at the end of the day, when I close the door, it's just the three of us, and there's nothing that changes that. Yeah, I'm on my own at night. Yeah, and it can get lonely. Yeah, and I do miss that sort of talking head, a lot of things I sort of feel like I have to deal with on my own, and I don't have somebody to bounce ideas with, and that can be hard. Well, the girls don't have a father, and that's felt every day. Kids can be cruel sometimes at school, and the other day Vivi came home, my older daughter came home and said, I hate it when, I don't mind if I say my daddy died, but I hate it when someone says your dad's dead. So, and then she started crying. Yeah, and I think there's something wrong with mentioning Matt's name, and what I've realised since Matt died is that people love it when Matt's name's mentioned. It's like it makes them come back alive again, and it's just so important to keep saying their name.